There's one more thing we need to do in order to be able to use the icons in our application. You may wonder what it is because the icons seem to work just fine in Qt Designer and in our design, and that's true. However, when we eventually integrate our design with the code, we'll need to have a compiled resource file as well. Luckily, getting this file is fairly simple, no more manual typing, at least not that much. So we're going to be using a tool that will generate this file automatically for us, but it's still just more of those boring tasks that you need to do. At least you don't really have to do it that often. To compile our resource file, we're going to be using a tool similar to the one we use for compiling our design file into Python code. Recall that for that task we use the PyUIC tool, and for compiling resources into Python code, we'll use the tool called PyRCC. So as I mentioned, this process is fairly simple. In your PowerShell or terminal, or even the command prompt, navigate to the root directory where you want to place your Python application, or as I kind of call it, your main Python file. Remember that in my case I created an application directory called Beautiful, and I have this icons subfolder which, recall, also contains our resource file called icons.qrc, and I also have our UI file here as well. So to get to the pyrcc command in my PowerShell, I'll just type pyrc and then hit the tab key, which should autocomplete to this pyrcc4.exe, at least on Windows obviously. And the first argument that a pyrcc tool expects is the location of our resource file, our qrc file, which in our case is in the icons subfolder. So I'll just type icons and then hit the tab just to make sure, and I have the icons.qrc. The second argument is going to be the name of the output file, or in other words, the generated Python file. This generated Python file needs to live in the root directory of the application, so not in any other directory, including not in the icons directory. So we need to add a -o for output, and we'll create a file called icons_rc.py. And make sure that this is how you name your output file, icons_rc.py, and I'll explain why this name specifically in just a second. Finally, since we're using Python 3, we'll also need to add a -py3 flag at the end, otherwise this generation would fail. Hit enter, and you can see that icons_rc.py file appeared in the root folder of my application. So while we're at it, I have this PowerShell open here. Why not just generate the UI file, or rather the Python file from our UI here? Recall that for that we need to use the PyUIC tool, and then I'll specify the location to the UI file. And finally, I'll name my output Python file css_ui. And voila, you can see here that I also have the css_ui.py file as well as the icons_rc.py file. So why is the naming of this icons_rc so important? Well, it's because actually of the PyUIC tool. The css_ui file expects a Python module named resource_name_rc, which in our case is icons_rc.py. When the PyUIC tool finds a resource defined in the UI file, it's going to import it that way. The name of our resource just comes from the name of the file of our resource, which in our case is icons.qrc. So just make sure to name it resource name, which in our case is icons_rc, this is always rc.py.